Welcome to the RetailWire Podcast, the show bringing you the very best in expert analysis, insights, and discussions straight from some of the retail industry's leading experts. Whether you're a retailer looking to stay ahead of the curve, a supplier navigating the ever-changing retail landscape, or someone who just really loves retail, we've got you covered. Get ready. It's time for another great episode here on the RetailWire Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode here on the RetailWire Podcast. Guys, I am I'm excited about today's episode because I have another podcaster on the show with me. This is someone who knows the run of what I'm going through. The guest today, if you have not checked the show notes yet, then you're going to find out this person is a fractional CMO and COO. We're going to talk a little bit about that and what that is. He's based out of Canada. He's a marketing professor at Centennial College, co-founder of Old Growth Beverages, co-host and co-founder of this Commerce Life podcast. And, of course, he's a Brain Trust member here on RetailWire. Welcome to the show, everybody. Phil Chang. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Brian. Thanks for having me.
You know, I could even bring it in for you with a.
Listen, you didn't have to do any of that because I'm just excited that I'm not on my podcast, so I'm not in your shoes. I'm not sweating over recording. I'm not worried. All I had to do was show up. I kind of love that. So, yeah.
You're not dealing with all those technical issues that pop up, like, something telling you a browser is out of.
Nope, nothing.
Whatever.
All I have to do is show it's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. So now you're a podcaster, and like you said, I think that's one of the nice things about being a guest on somebody else's podcast is you get to sit back a little bit and just be you, right?
Yeah.
But before we find out about the podcast situation, who are you? Tell everybody a little bit just about who Phil Chang is. Tell us what makes you tick, man.
Oh my gosh. Let me see.
Too late.
So,
no.
I'm Canadian, born and bred here in Toronto or the Toronto area. I'm married, got 3 kids. So my kids I'm at that age where I have big kids with big problems, I guess. Or big kid problems. So I've got a 21-year-old in uni, and then I've got a 17-year-old who just got her license. So I'm getting gray hairs from fending off, Dad, can I have the car? Dad, can I have the car? Dad, can I have the car?
How's it working out for you?
Yeah. There are moments, right? As a dad, you kind of go, I'm not asking, so you shouldn't tell me. But if I ask, you need to tell me. And then my better half is like, no, she needs to tell us everywhere. And I'm like, I can't. No, I don't want to. She took the car. She got home safe. We're good. I don't.
There's not enough ammo in the closet for you to know everywhere she goes, right?
No.
Nope.
There's just not enough. No. So yeah. And then my youngest is 15. So I'll be doing the Groundhog Day thing next year with licenses and all that stuff. But that's kind of that's family life. And then when you're reading my list, I feel like I have a problem with attention span. I clearly like to do a lot of things. So so that's kind of me. I play some volleyball on the side. Golf season is here. I love golf. I'm kind of a sport nut, so I'll play pretty much anything that has a sphere of some sort in it that I can chase around. So I'm simple that way. And then when I'm not doing that, if I can cook, I'd be in the kitchen all day. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. What's kind of your style of cooking that you go for? Is there a favorite dish that you have?
I'm all over the place. So I'm Chinese by descent, and but being Canadian Chinese, or like American Chinese, is you lose a lot of your heritage, right? Like I was born in Canada, and so the big thing now has been, my mom's 85, so I've been trying to replicate all of the family recipes, things that she
Mm.
cooked when we were small. And all of it is like, there's recipe books, but it's not the same, right? Like mom, she says it's a tablespoon, but when you go in there, you're like, that's not a tablespoon. Like you
And
used
she
your
looks at you and
hands
she's
and
like,
that
"That's
was
my
like a
tablespoon."
right. So there's a lot of that stuff in there. So yeah, it's been
Yeah.
really fun. Yeah.
No, I understand that my grandma was a big baker, and so she loved doing different homemade baked treats. And
Yeah.
we actually found some recipes the other day from her. They were written down on little note cards up in a pantry, and one of them I'll not forget this. It was her hot rolls that she would do, and so
Okay.
she would make just your normal traditional white hot roll, yeast dough, whatever,
Yeah.
and it would say it said something about mix it until you see this happen, and then it was put it in a bowl and let it rise until you get out of church, and then it'll be ready to go. And that was her measurement of
That's
time.
amazing. Right.
Was you'd put it
Yeah.
in like the night
Yeah.
before, let it rise, and once you came home from church, well, that's about
It's
the
ready.
amount of time that you would need. All right, Mama,
Yeah.
whatever, you got
Yeah.
it,
Yeah. You got it. Oh,
So,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
well,
Yeah. I
that's
hear you.
cool,
I hear
man.
you.
So, and you talking about attention span. So, I would imagine that probably plays actually well to, the first role I read off was your fractional CMO,
Yeah.
COO role.
Yeah.
For anybody listening who doesn't know, what is fractional in that context of CMO, COO? What does that look like for you?
It's I mean the way we describe it is it's really temporary expert help, either in the marketing area or helping you sort out operations and kind of running your business. So we kind of like I kind of make it my business not to be in your business forever. So usually I'm in a business, either a retailer or a brand. I'm there for maybe 6 months, and it's a lot of like, how do I help you solve, like what problems are you having? If it's a marketing problem, is it do you have a handle on how you're speaking to consumers, or what are your unique selling positions? Are they compelling enough, right? Or sometimes, actually oftentimes, the problem is I get to brands that they've done the vision, mission, purpose work,
Mm.
but they have these like really cool strat documents, but they have no idea how to turn that into marketing campaigns and
Yeah,
infrastructure,
executables.
and yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think that sounds really like, so essentially you're identifying what their goal is. You help them
Yeah.
figure out where they want to be at, then you
Yeah.
just reverse engineer
Correct.
working yourself out of a job.
Yeah. Correct.
So,
Correct. Yeah.
but that's really cool
Yeah.
because then I would imagine you probably get to see a lot of different businesses and different areas of business that, I mean, it's all still marketing and stuff, but at the same point, it's like you see different approaches, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How
And
do
I
you think
get,
that impacted your kind of like, has it compounded, I guess, probably over time? Like, hey, I saw this over in this industry. It won't work here, but it does work over here. What have you noticed about that?
yeah, it's so everybody has the same problem that way. So you get the strat documents, and then they all have trouble translating. And
Okay.
then but I do, you do carry things over, right? Like you see moments where I'm doing some work with a couple of pet brands right now. And they, one of them thinks that in order to resonate with a customer, you've got to be able to talk in that kind of like doggy language, that you're, pet parents or paw parents, or, this is possum. And it's kind of like helping them go, no, like connection with you can do that, but it's superficial. Like you
Yeah.
actually need to get to the emotional truth of why they need you.
Yeah.
So if you do that right, doesn't really matter what language you speak, you're gonna get it. It'll be fine, right? So there's some of that stuff in there for sure. The other really cool thing is when you start working like that, you run into a lot of marketers along the way, and so you just get to meet a lot of very talented people who are like really committed to what they want to do, right? So it's really fun. Like it's being able to drop into those situations. It's really really fun to help these brands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm going to take a slight tangent and say,
Yeah.
what is one of the or who has been one of the most influential marketers that you've kind of met along the way that you're like, wow, I can really point back to that person and they maybe shaped me?
Um, there's a whole bunch of folks. I think there's one in particular from kind of my Pfizer J&J days. His name's Peter Rodriguez. And P Rod, we call him P Rod, but P
Nice.
Rod
Shout out
is
P-Rod.
amazing. Yeah, P Rod's out there, and he's amazing. Like his ability to take, kind of like these really almost obtuse like consumer insights
Yeah.
and then turn them into something really sharp that you can use,
Mm,
is really really cool. So yeah, he would be a guy that I would look at, like not kind of big, Hollywood marketing hero, but like a
yeah.
local, that's just really cool. Done
He
some
knows
really
how to
cool
get it
things.
done.
Yeah, he does definitely.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
so fractional, you just kind of
yeah,
now are you working multiple roles at like multiple CMO roles at multiple companies at
yeah,
the same time?
yeah. Yeah, so
Okay,
usually
cool.
I try not to carry more than two or three at a
Okay,
time, because otherwise your focus gets all broken and then you're not kind of thinking through things properly. So usually it's two or three. Right now I've got two,
okay,
and then I teach on the side as well, so that kind of keeps me, ADD,
yeah. So,
keeps me focused.
so where did you get into teaching? What got you into teaching there?
Centennial, probably 6 or 7 years ago, Centennial was looking for an omni-channel, someone to do omni-channel, and I guess just at the time there just weren't that many of us
Okay,
doing omni-channel, so I jumped in to help out. I really liked it. I liked the role. I like spending the time with the kids. Like they're not really kids. They're all pros that came back. Like Centennial has this program that's a digital certificate, so it's really for people who have graduated and then realize like, hey, I've got a normal marketing degree, or I've got marketing experience, but I don't have digital.
yeah,
So they come back in and they do digital, and then Centennial teaches them everything: SEO, SEM, omni-channel, content creation, ads, the whole bit.
yeah,
And in the beginning, I was doing omni-channel there only. I like that, and then you know, like everything else, right? So then I started teaching SEO, SEM, and then classic marketing and digital marketing as well. So yeah,
and
yeah,
that's really cool. So now you said
yeah,
that was like six years ago or so that you started
yeah,
that.
yeah. Still
That's
doing it.
cool.
I
And
love it. Love it.
so you've seen several
Yeah,
several classes come through now, and like and kind of start going out. Do any of them reach out to you after like they kind
yeah,
of land that gig and
yeah.
or you know
Yeah, we stay in touch. A lot of them stay in touch. I kind of tell them, once you're my kids, you're always my kids. So,
yeah
because a lot of times too, they've got the experience now, but they need the contacts, right? Like they need the contacts to get into the industry. And then when you've got great like students, you just can't, you start placing them places, and they just work, right? Like now there's kids at there's some ex students at like places like L'Oreal and Shiseido and Walmart and Loblaws, and like all over the place, and you kind of hear the same thing, is that they're awesome, right? So
yeah.
so it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool
That's
to
got to be
watch.
really rewarding to know that like you're sending those people out and they're really just flying.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
really awesome, man.
yeah. It's really cool. It's really cool.
Well,
Yeah.
very cool. So tell me a little bit about Old Growth Beverages. What is that? Tell me the story. There's a big smile
It's
on your face, so I know there's got to be a good story there. Yeah.
it's a neat, it's a really neat pet project. So it is so we're doing microground teas,
Okay.
and so um, these are tea leaves that have been stone ground into very fine particles that you can drink.
Okay.
So from a holistic standpoint, it's really good for you. You basically consume the whole leaf, not just because when you soak a tea bag, you kind of get like 5, maybe 10% of the nutritional ingredients in a tea leaf, right? And so when you stone ground it, like one, you get all of the nutritional ingredients, and then two is you can have a drink in like a minute. So you boil water,
Mm,
teaspoon of this, and then if you add like a milk of your choice, you're
yeah.
good to go. It's
Wow.
pretty fantastic. Yeah. Yeah.
What's your
Yeah.
favorite tea that you make?
Oh my gosh, there's a chai that I can't get enough of. Which is, like I'm for anyone who knows me, like I'm a coffee drinker, so I know like everything I could possibly know about coffee. My cupboard is full of like pour overs and Chemexes, and
You got
we
a
use an
siphon?
espresso maker. Yeah, yeah. I have an AeroPress that I take on the plane with me.
Yep.
So so that's kind of like who I am. And then so when I start tasting these microgrounds, I was like, okay, this is cool as tea, but it's not for me. And then I drank the chai and I realized I have to beg Indian friends to make me marsala chai, right? It's a
Yeah.
lot of begging. You get a whole pot that you usually can't drink by yourself, right? And then you get the like, you asked me to make it. Now you're not drinking the entire 2 liters I made, right?
Right.
But now I can make it in my own kitchen. It's awesome. So yeah,
That's
yeah,
really cool.
yeah.
So now do you grow the teas or do you buy them from
No,
somewhere
we buy them.
or
Yeah, we
okay.
everything's organic, so all the
Yeah.
ingredients are organic, but we source them all. We don't have enough time yet. We're not that vertically integrated.
No, that's cool.
Maybe someday I'll add tea grower to my list, but I
You
don't think I
know?
can do that while I live in Toronto. I think I need to move to India or South Africa or somewhere
Yeah.
somewhere warm and balmy. So
I don't see a problem with moving warm and balmy. Yeah. I think that
listen,
sounds
if I get a tea field or whatever they call it,
yeah,
you and I we'll do a podcast from the middle of the tea leaves, so it'll be great.
straight up.
Yeah,
And on a different section, I'm gonna come and grow hops.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Beer
Bring it
hops.
on.
So I'll
Bring it
brew
on.
my own
Why not?
beers from there. So
If we have that much land, we might as well do it all, right? What's the big
right.
deal? So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, very cool, man. So then now you're with the Brain Trust. Obviously, you're on the Meet the Brain Trust series here. But
yeah.
how did you come to know RetailWire? What's the path look like to get you into RetailWire?
So right around the time I started teaching omnichannel, I was working for a retail tech company called Hubba, based out of Toronto. It's a startup. It's just I think it hit 14 or 15 years, so it just closed down like the last couple of years.
Okay.
But we've been around a long time, and I was working as an ambassador for them. And then I ran into I was online. I can't remember why, but I ran into Rick Moss, the former co-founder of Retail,
Yep.
and he and I started chatting online. I think we were going back and forth on a topic, and then he kind of sent me this invite, like, "Hey, you got to check this out." And then that was it. So I've kind of been in Retail Wire a long time. I love the discussions going on. The folks in there are super smart. And I love the community. They're all pretty great people, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a nice way to jump into conversations in the morning. So
Well, and I like it because to me, so like, I've said this on a previous episode too, but like I don't come from a massive extensive background in retail, and I think just being surrounded by such great minds with
hmm
a lot of different
hmm
perspectives, they're not just parroting the same thing, right?
yeah,
They all
yeah,
have their own views and their own experiences that they're bringing, and so it's been really cool to get to know you a little bit. We've done a couple calls already before this,
yeah.
and just being able to connect a little bit, being able to kind of learn who you are, and like, wow, I really need to get you on the podcast. And so this has been really cool to see, and I think it's really shown me a lot about the retail industry and the people in the retail industry that I really had no clue about.
Oh, that
Um,
we're all crazy.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, no,
we're
that I
all
knew
like,
because
yeah,
I can identify well with you guys. Uh, But no, man, that's awesome. I'm really glad to have you with us, man. I'm glad to have you here
thanks,
as part of the Brain
thanks.
Trust. Um, so before we go too deep into retail, though, you said so you're a podcaster,
Yeah,
you're a teacher.
yeah.
Um, are there any untapped hobbies that we haven't talked about? Like what's your guilty pleasure like in hobbies? Like, are you like a super gardener or like
I
uh
garden, but I'm not good at it. Like
eh,
I plant, I water. I honestly, if I didn't have to get paid for a living, I really would. I think I would spend all my time in the kitchen.
ah
Like I really would. Like kind of learning, all of the different things that you can make, and like baking is one of those things that I've gone pretty deep on as well. So we make all sorts of things at home, and I think yeah, it's kind of it's a neat place to be. So if I had to do anything, if I was trying to de-stress or I was trying to do anything, it's probably cooking.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that's
yeah.
awesome. Well, I know we talked a little bit about just kind of your first roots in retail and stuff like that. Um, what was something that what was something that you kind of came into the retail game and just like maybe struggled with, or what was something that maybe took you off guard about retail that you were like, oh yeah, I'm gonna walk in, this part's gonna be a breeze for me, and maybe it kind of right hooked you.
Um, I think that I think the first moment that it was really surprising. So I kind of had the benefit of working at a whole bunch of companies, but there was a moment where um, I became the data guy for Revlon Canada, for example. So we were doing, like, look at me, right? Like, I'm at a cosmetics company, right? So what do I know
Yeah,
about cosmetics, right? So I had to learn all this stuff. And then I think the first moment that I was kind of hooked, right, was we started running analytics and then we started teaching stores based on categories. So we give them a business review. So we tell them how well they did on Revlon lip, eye, face, all that kind of stuff. Versus their year ago sort of thing. Like really
yeah,
kind of like basic, kind of performance stuff.
yeah,
But, you know, the the sales director at the time, she got me really going because I was like, yeah, I ran these things. She goes, yeah, but what are you teaching them? And I'm like, what do you mean?
yeah.
I'm telling them how
Gave
they
him the
do. Like,
numbers.
what's the big deal? Like, there's millions of data points. She goes, it's all just data, right? Like, it's all just crap. So what is it?
Yeah,
And that made me kind of go, oh, oh shoot, right? Like, because now that moment is when data and consumers get tied together, and you realize like what I see influences what a store does, which influences what a consumer does.
yeah,
Um, and that's like the first moment that you realize, that was like really early on. You realize like it should be consumers who produce the data that influence what we do, which is kind of true, but it's way more true the other way. Is we see data and then we make things happen.
yeah,
And that was like the first moment that I thought, I'm in, right? Like this is cool because now, and now I can pull data, I can find slices, I can talk to them differently. It means when I go and build planograms, all of a sudden, like you shape planograms differently because I know this is what they're looking for, and I can surmise that if I put it here, I'm going to get better sales because they know they can find it easier. So there's
yeah.
all of those things that kind of make data and insights come together. So that was probably my first like real aha moment.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
because a lot of people don't think about it, but like even just shifting the position of a couple of different SKUs, or maybe it's a color pattern that's different, and
yeah,
or a color and a bottle shape or
yeah,
size, it can really, people don't understand just how much a small change like that can really modify a shopper's behavior. Um,
yeah,
just based on where it's
yeah,
at,
yeah,
it's like I think that was a big thing for me because I had a background with some Walmart time and some agency time, and understanding the difference between a shelf placement at eye level versus one above or below.
hmm
Even it's not even that far of a distance, but it changes everything about your sales numbers and the perception of that product. So,
Well,
uh,
a really easy example, we moved like super sexy category, right? Hemorrhoids.
yeah,
But we moved hemorrhoid creams from the bottom shelf to the middle shelf.
okay,
And you kind of go, well, that seems like a basic insight, right? Because if you have hemorrhoids, you can't bend over. You can't, so like to bend down and reach hemorrhoid cream on the bottom shelf is not really a thing,
yeah,
right? And you realize, like, oh, like if I was just looking at data, I'd never know that, right? But that's
yeah,
that moment when you go, that's the data, right? And then, like, and based on the data, if it was on the bottom shelf, you'd be declining in numbers. So you'd keep it on the bottom shelf because it sucks. But the
yeah,
minute you realize, I've done it wrong. I've done them a disservice. If I move it out to the middle, all of a sudden the lift goes up, and then the data says, no, you put it in the right place. Now it's turning twice as fast as it was before because they can
Oh
reach
yeah.
it, right? Like, hello,
Well, and there's that, and there's the idea that, like, the thing that jumps out to me is like some people, there's the stigma, obviously around hemorrhoids and everything. It's just
Yeah,
like, oh, I just feel gross, it's
yeah,
like kind of think like it's annoying. I don't want to
yeah.
deal with it. So maybe somebody's trying to not
That's right.
walk past and like
Yeah,
stare at the bottom of the shelf. It's
yeah,
like, what are they looking? Oh, they're looking at hemorrhoid cream.
yeah,
Got it. It's like, no, no, no. I was definitely
yeah,
looking at the toothpaste over here.
yeah, yeah. It's true.
I
It's
think,
true.
taking those human behaviors into consideration like that, and that's the knowledge where I think, your leadership was spot on with going, okay, what is the story behind that data?
Yeah,
Because there's it looks like a bunch of dots, right? But then
yeah. But
suddenly
it's not.
the
Yeah,
dots are making this big mosaic
yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's cool.
that's really cool.
Yeah, man.
Well, so what is one thing I think we're talking a lot about analytics, talking a lot about
Mm.
customer behaviors and things like that with marketing. What is something you see going on in the retail industry just over and over and over again? I mean, I would imagine you probably also see it a lot in your fractional roles. Um, what's something that they see, that you see going on that, like, for you it's pretty crystal clear, but you see these brands or these individuals constantly struggling with, say, like one or two key areas?
Um, I think that so the two things that I see over and over again, I think that kind of made me do the fractional thing is the connection between strategy and execution.
Okay.
I just feel like there's such a big gap. Like, because the people who do your vision, mission, and purpose stuff, they're
Hmm.
very they're very creative types. They're very super smart. They're all super smart and they're very
Yeah,
creative, but they do what they love, right? Which is the mission vision. And that's a really
yeah, kind of
fun
idealistic,
process.
right?
Yeah, it's very fun, right? Because you're ideating with clients, you're spending lots of time brainstorming, you're getting lots of gray cells, working, right? But the connection to the nitty gritty, the how do I build a campaign out of that? Like, what tools do I plug in, right? Like, what things
Mm.
do I track that help me say this is working, it's not working? I see that broken all over. Sometimes I get to companies and they've got 4 different mission, vision, purposes, right? That they've done
Mm.
over the years because they think this is where I have to begin every time. And sometimes I say to them, don't bother. Just give me all 4 and then I'll plot you a path and we'll work out whether the path is right for you. And then we'll just figure, you know what I mean? Like, because I think
Yeah,
that's something I see over and over again is people not being able to execute on plans.
yeah.
Yeah, which is really troubling, right? So,
And
yeah.
I would think that could happen over a lot of different reasons, whether it's kind of a setting goals based on others' expectations of you or your
Hmm.
perceived expectations. Then you'd also have the idea that, maybe, well, this is what I see everybody else doing, and
Hmm.
so I should definitely just fall into that mold. But at the same time, you see people who they're not built that way. I very thankfully am able to work in an area where I've finally figured out what is kind of going on a little bit up here. And so it makes it easier for me to go, hey, I need to not be in the weeds all the time. But if you give me an idea and tell me what you want to head to, then I can make sure you get there. Yeah, I
Yeah.
use the phrase that if you tell me what target you want to hit, I'll
Yeah.
make sure I'll figure out how to hit that target.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to hit it over and over and over, and I'll be able to make it so
Yeah.
systematic that
Yeah.
you'll be able to do it in your sleep. But I think a lot of people go, oh, well, because my dad did this, or because my mom did this, or because this was not even a family business, but this is just what people in my region do. This is what
Yeah.
people that went to this school
Yeah.
did, or whatever else. Or this is what all the other businesses ahead of me in this category have done. Then I must need to look like that, right? I mean, I think of the silliness of let me see if I can get this in focus. Liquid Death.
Liquid death.
Have you had their stuff yet?
No. What is
Dude, I'm a
that?
huge fan. Huge fan.
Okay.
So it's water. Okay? It's
Okay.
water. There is nothing sexy about water. right? Like
That's pretty
you
sexy
go
though. Liquid death is pretty
Nestle.
sexy.
Oh, dude, I'm telling you, they've figured out the way, right?
Okay.
So Nestle and your Evian and all those
Yeah.
guys, you can market
Yeah.
water a certain amount of times in the same way that it's this clear bottle. You show the quality, you show the everything about it, but they've made a really great way to make water sexy to influencers. So this is what they call their severed lime version. So it's a sparkling water. It's got a
Okay.
little bit of a lime flavor
Okay.
to it. Um, it's really good. I like it. I actually it's what's funny is I don't like buying products based on their marketing because I've been in it so long that I just go, you
Yeah.
guys see through the smoke and mirrors. But when there's a company that comes along that knows their
Yeah.
identity and they know what they want to do. I mean, I think of Dude Wipes, the same concept there. They know who they are.
Yeah.
They're selling a product. It's wipes.
Yeah.
Seriously. But they market
But they figured it out.
specifically to
Yeah.
dudes. They figured
Yeah.
out the bro code.
Yeah.
And so exactly what, you're talking about is like I would imagine that's huge too, kind of going back to the college professor thing and going when you're able to help a
Yeah.
company figure out their identity and then go, that's it. I know exactly what to do. I know how to go. I know how not to dilute what I need to be.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah. It's
So
pretty
this
fun.
is me catching it while you're putting it out, and I'm like, ding, light bulb. So let's go.
No, I love it. Honestly, it's I've never had more fun, right? Because
Yeah,
it's like solving a Rubik's cube and then you get it, and then there's a really good feeling, right? Because at the end of that, the conversation is a nice, like, okay, it's time, right? Like you guys
yeah,
you're good, you've got the infrastructure you need, we've got you on a plan, off you go, right?
yeah.
And then your kind of child leaves the nest, and then you go and help somebody else, right? So it's pretty fun. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's come up to current times here. What are you most excited about in retail right now? Like, is there something that you're
Oh my
like
gosh.
piquing your interest really?
um there's a whole bunch of, like, I'm such a retail nerd.
Hmm.
um I'm such a retail nerd, like, so one of the classes I taught today was around sustainability and ethics. And so not sustainability like from an environmental standpoint, but like
Hmm.
how as marketers you build for the future.
Yeah,
So you don't kind of like the whole principle, like, don't blow your brains out right now. What you need to do is grow and grow responsibly,
yeah,
and then figure out how you map a path that maybe even leadership can't see yet, right? Or the other people around you can't see yet. So I love, um, I love watching companies that are doing that kind of slow down and do things right.
hmm,
Um, some of the things that I really love, and we've seen them from even like brain trust, kind of comments, but like Lululemon and the things that
hmm.
they were doing, that was a pretty hot topic. Our friend, my Toronto friend Lisa and Lanny was
Yeah.
all over that. But
Her post is still getting more likes on that, by
yeah,
the way.
yeah. Well, but it's huge, right? Because for the longest time, everybody in retail has been plagued by, kind of like knockoffs, right? Is you go to, like Amazon, and there's a branded item and there's 18 knockoffs, right? And you kind of like, everyone thinks, oh, I'll just get the knockoff. And here you are, you've got this great big company, and what do they do, right? Like they could go blow their brains out, but instead they decide, we're going to stop and make it an experiential moment, and we're
Yeah,
actually going to take on the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about, right? Like these kind of knockoffs, right? And they went
yeah,
right after them, right? And to me, that is like, that's sustainable, right? Because they're taking a crack at, how do I keep the ecosystem right in balance a little bit, and then how do I build for the future, right? So now I've just won over a whole set of fans. It might have cost me a little bit this year, or might cost a lot this year, but
yeah,
but in the future, like, what they've done is they've won back a whole set of users that will never, right, that will never
yeah.
buy those imitation brands again, right? Which is It's pretty amazing, I think.
Well, and let's play the sneaky side of this
Yeah.
too and go, they just had a lot. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, Lululemon did a dupe swap,
Hmm.
meaning if you had a product that was not Lululemon that you had bought at a lower rate, and maybe it was the price, maybe it was the a different thing that you thought was the same quality, but you were interested in experimenting with and experiencing the Lululemon brand official items, they would actually swap that item out for you free of charge and give you real Lululemon product. You had to bring that in. I think the brilliant side from a marketing perspective and from a research side, they just had dozens, if not hundreds of people bring their competitors' product to them
Yeah.
so they can now
Yeah.
analyze those and go, why was this
Yeah.
appealing?
Yeah.
And that's brilliant. I think it's this perfect circle. And like you said, then you're tapping that market that maybe didn't understand the hype of Lululemon
Hmm.
because they'd never spent the money on it.
Hmm.
But then whenever they got that first pair, they're going, "Oh, yeah, I totally get it. Like this is incredibly different." I've got some Lululemon shorts in there that are the men's like workout
Yep.
shorts, and they're one of my most favorite pairs because they're so comfortable. They breathe well, they flex well, and so it's like anytime I get a chance, if I see them, heck yeah, I'm getting them
It
because
it's a
they work.
cool insight, right? Like it's a really cool insight. Like because I have the same as you, right? Like somebody gave me a Lululemon sweater once, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh, Lululemon, it's so fancy." And I put it on, and I
true.
was like, "Oh my god!" Right? And
Yeah,
it's probably my favorite sweater, right? And I think anyone who has Lululemon has that story of like, this is the go-to, right? Like this is my favorite. This is the one that I wear when I want to be most comfortable. And
yeah,
then so this is what I'm talking about, like data insight. They took that and went, oh, we got it. Like so we just got to turn it up a notch, right? So all these guys who think they got a good enough item, let's put one favorite Lululemon item in their wardrobe now. And
yeah,
maybe they buy a lot less, but then it probably means they're coming back every time now, right? Like,
yeah.
you know,
Rather than
it's
buying a
really
new
cool.
pair every 3 months, they're going to
Yeah.
save up and get one every 6 or 8.
Yeah, yeah. And I
So,
complain every time. Like I buy Lululemon, and I
oh yeah,
complain every time. I'm like, man, this shiz is so expensive, you know. And then,
right.
but I come back. Like I come back because I like it, right? Like I like the feel. I like the way it's made, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, it's like I
yeah,
tell
it's
my
awesome.
barber, I'm like, hey man, it's a good thing you're really good because you're expensive. But I'm never going anywhere else. I learned that lesson by going
Yeah,
to a
yeah,
barber dupe,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it was just like, no, not the same,
yeah,
not the
yeah,
same experience.
yeah. It's true. It's true.
Well,
It's
I
true.
know we're getting pressed on time right
Hmm.
now. This is definitely the longest episode we've had so far, which I'm actually
Oh,
excited for.
I'm
So
excited. It's
yeah,
been fun to talk to you, man.
yeah. But
Yeah,
I wanted to ask,
yeah.
what is if you could go back in time, kind of seeing where you're at and where you started,
Hmm.
what is a lesson that you would tell yourself, say 20 years ago, or however long you want to go back? Um, what is something that you what's a piece of advice?
You idiot! Get out of retail. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, that's probably not it, man.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
I feel like
Um,
this would be the perfect time to use, we got that.
I I think it's to be curious all the time.
Yeah.
And like so probably it's like half of it is to be curious and the other half is never forget that there's a real life person buying on the other side, because
Hmm.
like that's the whole thing about retail is it can never be the same because that consumer who buys, their lives are different all the time, right? So the marketing that you're doing now, it may not, it won't be the same 6 months from now, and it won't be the same a year from now, right? And so you kind of like, you've got to be looking, you got to look like 8 ways to Sunday all the time, right? So it becomes like, be curious and learn all the time,
Yeah,
like it's the only way to stay in this industry and have some fun at it too. So
that's
yeah,
huge. That
yeah.
is huge. Well, Phil, thanks so much for being with us on the Retail Wire podcast. I really appreciate you taking time, man.
Brian, thank you for doing the podcast so I didn't have to do it. I really appreciate you.
Now, I will have you on future episodes, and I would love to get your insights on some stuff coming up. So
Bring it on.
that
Bring it
said,
on.
I
Anytime,
have one
Brian.
final
You
question
call.
for you.
I'm there. Sure.
What is the art over your left shoulder there? The glasses.
So all of this is my youngest daughter. So she used to be. She won't let me share the YouTube channel anymore because she stopped doing it.
Okay.
But she's like the ultimate boss lady. So she's 15 now, and at 14, she had 1 million subscribers. And then she said to me, "You know, Dad, I'm done. I'm done with the channel. I don't want to do that anymore." And she was making like good college money. Like she has enough for college. And then so all of this is her art. Like it's just her. I can't draw. Like I draw stick figures. It's really awful. But somewhere she picked up this talent, probably from her mother, and it's pretty amazing. So yeah.
That's incredible, man. Thanks for telling us about that. If somebody wants to reach out to you, what is the best place to do that? Is that LinkedIn? Is that a website? What's the best way to contact you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. So just go to Retail Phil and you'll find me. Or you can find me at if you go to the podcast page of thiscommercelife.com, you'll be able to find me there. But I'm kind of like all over the place. So yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again. Looking forward to more conversations with you in the future. And thanks for being a Brain Trust member here at RetailWire.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me.
We'll see you all in the next episode.
Thanks for tuning in to the RetailWire Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Be sure to subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting platform and leave us a comment for a chance to hear it read on the next show. See you next time here on the RetailWire Podcast.